Mr. Pop.
You're listening to New Atheist Radio.
You seem to be angry with religion, angry with God.
I would not vote for a man who was an atheist because I believe we need to have an acknowledgement of reverence or fear for Almighty God.
I think there is in this country a war on religion. I think there is a desire to establish a religion in America known as secularism.
There's no evidence of evolution from one species to another.
Tide goes in, tide goes out. Never a miscommunication. You can't explain that.
Homosexuality is an abomination unto God.
Our civil laws have to comport with the higher law. And that's why the issue of abortion, as long as abortion is legal in this country, we will never have rest because that law does not comport with God's law.
Hello and welcome, my friends. You're listening to the second episode of New Atheist Radio, where we discuss news, current events, and social issues in the U.S. and the world from an atheist perspective. Today is Sunday, April 22nd, 2012, and I'm your host, Christian McFadden. On today's show, I'd like to address the idea of religious liberty. I'm also going to talk about the sanctity of beliefs, whether or not special exceptions should be given when beliefs rooted in any faith are discussed in the public sphere. But to get things started, I'll touch on a few news items of interest. Okay, this story is from Thursday, April 19th, so just a few days ago, as reported from the AFP news agency. Vatican condemns American nuns for liberal stances. Oh, liberal stances? What the fuck? The Vatican has issued a scathing condemnation of the main association of Catholic nuns in the United States for taking liberal stances on contraception, homosexuality, and female priests. The Leadership Conference of Women Religious, that's right, LCWR, said in a statement on Thursday that it was stunned by the Vatican report, which pointed to serious doctrinal problems and unacceptable positions on a range of issues. The report accuses members of the LCWR of corporate dissent with the Church's teachings against homosexuality and said it was pursuing radical feminist themes. Holy shit. The LCWR represents around 45,000 U.S. nuns, or 80% of the total. That's 80% of all the nuns in this country. Holy cow. Sister Simone Campbell, Executive Director of Network, Catholic Social Justice Lobby, and members of LCWR, she tweeted, "I think we scare them." So these are radical nuns, man. They're out there. They got their own agenda. Another thing she said, it is painfully obvious that the leadership of the Church is not used to having educated women form thoughtful opinions and engage in dialogue. She said, we haven't violated any teaching. So now, when I walk down the street and I see a nun, I want to walk up to her and give her a fucking righteous high five, man. Because that's some shit. Not only are they trying to be forward-thinking, and teaching, taking a more, I guess, liberal approach, but they don't even care. They didn't even respond to this attack, other than the a few odd remarks. But there's been no official response, which I think is kind of a fuck you. So I think that's kind of awesome. The report condemned the LCWR for being silent on the right to life from conception to natural death. So obviously the idea that human soul is present right from the moment of conception, and I guess these nuns are not sort of falling in line. So I can't imagine this kind of scenario, but what it implies is that there are nuns that are in some way or another condoning not just contraception but abortion. Because if you don't take that hardline stance that it's a human life right at the moment of conception, you're according to the Church, you're doing it wrong. And I think that's what they're saying. They're saying you need to get your shit in line. It also says the LCWR has come under criticism from the Catholic hierarchy for endorsing U.S. President Barack Obama's health care reform, including, catch this, including its provisions on abortion and contraception in the run-up to the U.S. election in November. So these nuns are essentially on board. So when you read on your Facebook wall, religious individuals who are saying, Catholics do not support this new reform. They don't support the HHS legislation. No, you're wrong. Not true, because these nuns, this organization, 80%, 45,000 strong, do not agree with you, and they've been going in their own direction, and the church is pissed. And there was a great quote. It says, the Vatican reprimanded the LCWR for spending too much time on poverty and social justice concerns and not enough time on abortion and gay marriage. So, I laugh and I think it's cool, but really, the next time I see a nun, I'm going to have this story in the back of my mind, and I'm going to think, right on, sister, right on. Keep on keeping on. And I guess sort of related to that, there was a study that just came out from the Public Religion Research Institute and Georgetown Berkeley Center for Religion, Peace, and World Affairs. I didn't even know there was such a thing at Berkeley. All right. And this report tries to explain what's happening to what they call millennials, which are 18 to 24-year-olds. Now, I guess what this study did is it surveyed a bunch of people, comparing where they were as kids in terms of their religious leanings and where they are now. And when you look at this chart, I'll have it up in the show notes, newatheistradio.com. If you look at the change, there's a net gain and loss. So there's childhood religion in one column, and then current religion. So they're comparing where you were as a kid, where you are now in the 18 to 24 age range. And if you look at this chart, it's pretty awesome. As far as I'm concerned, it's pretty fucking awesome. The only group to have a net gain next to it, besides a couple, there's small ones at the bottom where there's like 1% this, 1% that. But the highest net gain or loss is a net gain to, drumroll, unaffiliated. That's right. So from the time they were children to the time they were adults, 13.6% people changed from being religious, and this list is just sort of Catholic, Protestant, and so on. But the highest gain, 13.6 for unaffiliated. Directly under that, the next highest net gain loss, Catholic, negative 7.9. So where there were 27.9% of kids who identified themselves as being Catholic, when they were adults, that number dropped to 20. And it runs down the line from there. There's a loss for Protestant, lost white evangelical Protestant, and so on. But those are big numbers. Now, why do I bring that up relating to the case of the nuns? Well, the nuns claim that the way they're doing things is actually beneficial to the church. So they believe that the way they are going out and doing their thing is actually good, not bad. So when you read the report about the nuns, they ask some questions of the people they polled, and these are the responses that they got. Now keep in mind that these nuns are doing things sort of their way, with a sort of a more trying to worry more about social justice issues than about things like abortion, contraception, gay marriage, and all that. These responses to the people that were polled are very telling. It says almost 2/3, 64% of millennials, say that anti-gay describes present-day Christianity somewhat or very well. So now this is obviously their perspective. This is their opinions. But two-thirds of people in this age group, 18 to 24, That's what they think. That is no small number, and that isn't something that the church can ignore, I think. And, if you think of the way the nuns are trying to do things, I think absolutely whether the church recognizes it or not, I think I agree with them. I think that they're really doing the church's work more in line with what the church claims it should be doing. If the goal is to help people, to be compassionate, the nuns have it spot on. The next interesting statistic, over 6 out of 10, or 62%, also believe that present-day Christianity is judgmental. 58% agree that hypocritical best describes present-day Christianity. And it says half millennials say that too involved in politics describes present-day Christianity well. So, I mean, it's in black and white there, guys. I mean, I think these sisters, they have it right, and I'm actually, I don't know why I take so much joy out of reading this story, but I think these nuns need to keep on keeping on, because they are obviously doing something right. Okay, in our next little bit of news, you probably heard about this because it's not exactly, it didn't happen this week, it happened last week. In Arizona, they proposed a bill that would have the Bible taught as an elective in public schools. Now, this was reported by the Huffington Post on the 12th of April. It says an Arizona bill that creates a high school course for public and charter school students that teaches the Bible and its role in Western culture is headed to the Republican government. Jan Brewer, I think you guys know who Jan Brewer is. If you don't, go Google the shit out of it, because it's just nonstop lulz. The state Senate approved the bill. Now this was Thursday, this was about a week and a half ago, by a vote of 21-9. So Arizona is having some problems. Under the proposal, the State Board of Education must design a high school elective course titled The Bible and Its Influence on Western Culture, which would include lessons on history, literature, and influence of the Old and New Testament on laws, government, and culture, among other aspects of society. So this past Tuesday, guess what? Signed into law. Jan Brewer signed it into law on Tuesday, and so it's a sad day for America and an embarrassing day for Arizona. The bill was sponsored by Republican State Representative Terry Proud, and she had this to say.
It's everywhere around us. And to say that I don't want my child to be exposed to that is to say that, then we might as well just not have air and breathe, because it is that implemented into our society.
Whoa! What? So now kids need the Bible as much as they need fucking oxygen. All right. So I think that kind of remark really betrays what the real intentions are of this bill are. It's not just to give some kind of broad understanding of the Bible in a more historical sense at all. She thinks it's important. Saying something is as important as the air we breathe it is kind of telling. Here's another clip of supporter of the bill, which I'm not even going to say anything about it. I'm just going to play it.
The Bible's a historical book, and so our kids are learning history when they're reading the Old Testament, when they're reading the New Testament. To not teach the Bible in school as a historical book, you really leaves a vacuum of knowledge.
Say what? History. All right. So now the Bible is a historical document. I'm sorry, my friend, but any historian worth a damn would bust a gut just laughing at that claim. The Bible is not a historical document. It has some historical accuracies in it. It's historically accurate in the same way that King Kong is historically accurate, because New York City is a real place, and the Empire State Building is a real building, and there are airplanes, and there is a U.S. military. So that's all historically accurate. But the one part that isn't, a giant fucking monkey did not climb up the Empire State Building. So it's historically accurate only in the sense that, yes, it describes locations and maybe some very broad events that may have happened. But to call really any part of the Old or the New Testament history, you are really doing a disservice to those children, and your real intentions are just are so exposed when you make that kind of a claim. So Arizona, and Arizona is not the first. Arizona is now the 6th state that allows districts to offer a high school elective Bible course. The other states that offer it: Georgia, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, and South Carolina. They all have laws permitting these Bible courses. So 6 states. We need to put a stop to that. And here's why. If, in fact, the Bible is everywhere and we're all exposed to it, which, by the way, if you're in a public school, that should not be the case. But if we are, why do we need a course like this? I mean, isn't it enough that people can choose to go to church or read the Bible at home, talk about it with their parents, their families, whatever? I don't understand why there's a unique need in our schools for this kind of elective. And I should mention that in the article they do point out that it is an elective, and that any credits gained from the course don't go towards graduation. So, in other words, if you choose not to take the course, you're not in any way penalized. You don't lose anything if you don't take the course. But really, that's the thing. It should be. I mean, this is something that should be taught at home. You know, teach it at home. Teach it in church. That's you know, I don't know. It just bothers me. And you know, I'll be honest with you. I kind of support to a degree the idea of the Bible being taught in school, but only insofar as it's sort of part of a larger curriculum. If you know, teach the Bible in school because it does have some relevance in terms of. I guess in some sense it can explain some of the batshittery that has occurred in the last 2,000 years. But, you know, make it inclusive. Don't just make it the Bible. You know what I mean? Throw the Quran in there. You know, teach other religious texts. Don't just stick to the Bible, because when you do it with just the Bible, it certainly implies that you have an agenda. It's telling me that you want the Christian religion to be injected into the public school system, and you're kind of dressing it up as, you know, we want to teach the we want to teach the historical relevance of it, which is, in my opinion, laughable, but not anything else. And I think if you took out the word Bible and you injected the word Quran, and that news story broke, people would go absolutely apeshit. I don't think there's any question that this country would lose its fucking mind. So, you know, do it. Teach the Bible, but teach it as part of something bigger that includes other religious texts. All right. Well, I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about religious liberty. You've been seeing a lot in the news, or hearing about it a lot in the news. It's really something that I want to talk about. I have a lot of loud, angry face opinions about religious liberty, and so I will share those with you when we come back. This is New Atheist Radio.
But let's not revise history. It's very profound in history that there was no freedom from religion. We have over 4,500 public quotes of politicians, public representatives, quoting from Scripture or praying on public lands. This notion now that we're not somehow allowed to have an invocation or a prayer or a Bible reading on public property is somehow violating the First Amendment, that's ludicrous.
All All right, welcome back to New Atheist Radio. I wanted to talk a little bit about religious liberty. You hear that phrase thrown around a lot today in the news, and so I thought it was something worth talking about. Recently, on April 12th, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops issued a statement basically dealing directly with religious liberty and what they think they're entitled to. This is what, kind of what they think religious liberty is, and why it's something that they deserve. It's something that the government should recognize, that the people of the United States should recognize. They issued a call to action to defend religious liberty. So these are some of the problems that they cite. They say the Health and Human Services, or HHS, mandate forcing all employers, including religious organizations, to provide and pay for coverage of employees' contraception, sterilization, and abortion-inducing drugs, even when they have moral objections to them. So that's one thing, religious liberty. That's violating their religious liberty. Another one, driving Catholic foster care and adoption services out of business. Boston, San Francisco, and District of Columbia and Illinois have driven local Catholic charities, adoption, or foster care services out of business by revoking their licenses. They ended their government contracts because those charities refused to place children with same-sex couples or unmarried opposite-sex couples who cohabitate. So they're basically saying we had to go out of business because we weren't willing to comply with the law. That's what they're saying there. Discrimination against Catholic humanitarian services. They say the federal government changed its contract specifications to require USCCB to provide or refer for contraceptive and abortion services in violation of Catholic teaching. Religious institutions should not be disqualified from a government contract based on religious belief, and they do not lose their religious identity or liberty upon entering such contracts. They also said, religious liberty is not only about our ability to go to Mass on Sunday or pray the Rosary at home. It is about whether we can make our contribution to the common good of all Americans. So here they're defining what they feel is the common good of all Americans. Can we do the good works our faith calls us to without having to compromise that very same faith? I don't think that's really your decision to make there, boyo. But anyways, this is not a Catholic issue. This is the big one. This is one of those big, broad, America, freedom, liberty. This is not a Catholic issue. This is not a Jewish issue. This is not an Orthodox, Mormon, or Muslim issue. It is an American issue. So they're waving the red, white, and blue on this one, saying this is about all of us. They say what we ask is nothing more than our God-given right to religious liberty be respected. That sentence didn't make sense. We ask nothing less than that the Constitution and laws of the United States, which recognize that right, be respected. The bishops have issued a call to action to defend religious liberty and urged laity to work to protect the first freedom of the Bill of Rights. And it's interesting that they bring up the Bill of Rights, because I think in this context they're talking about the First Amendment. I'm going to read to you what the First Amendment says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So that is the amendment that you hear people talking about when they say, oh, we have freedom of religion, and they wave it around like a banner, like, hey, this proves that we can sort of do what we want and say what we want because it's religious freedom, right? But no. Here's a clip of Matt Barber of the group Liberty Council talking about how he feels that they're being bullied by secularists.
They're bullies. And we know that when people stand up to the bully on the playground intimidates. That's what he does, intimidates people into silence, into fear, into avoiding the bully. And oftentimes the bully is the paper tiger, and when the righteous individual who is being bullied defends his or herself and punches the bully in the mouth, guess what? The bully, more times than not, has a glass jaw, falls down, then everyone on the playground says, whoa, the bully was a weakling after all. That's the secularist left. The secularist left are bullies. They try to bully and intimidate and push religious intolerance and religious bigotry on everyone else.
All right, so that's his position. He's saying that secularists are the bullies in this scenario. So, me as a secularist, I look at what the church is asking for, what these bishops are asking for, and my response to them is, I'm sorry, but you don't get to make the rules. You are not calling the shots. We're going to stick with the law. And so because I, as a secularist, stand up for the law and ask that they comply with the law, right, I'm the fucking bully. I'm the bully, and I'm the one that needs to get punched in the mouth, apparently. So all the pressure that they put on, all the lobbying that they do, all this stuff, that's not bullying, right? I mean, they're not bullying us. Whatever. Bullshit. Bullshit is what I say. There was an article in the Secular News Daily, which is an excellent website if you like to keep up on these kinds of stories, written by Lauren Anderson Youngblood. She wrote a story called Catholic Bishops Wage War on True Religious Freedom. So she's flipping the fucking script, and she's saying it's not the secularists, it's the bishops. This is what she says. True religious freedom is the ability to practice your religion and hold your religious beliefs, as long as those beliefs and practices do not infringe upon the religious freedom of others, break the law of the country we live in, or expect special government privileging. I think that is fucking spot on and an amazing paragraph to read. So what she's saying is that it is in fact the bishops, when they make this kind of call to action, they want people to stand up for religious freedom. That's not what they're asking for. They're not asking for religious freedom. They're asking for permission for them to make the rules. They're asking for the government to allow them to break the law in whatever way they see fit, if what they're being asked to do violates their religious liberty, their religious freedom. And statements like the ones the bishop made, they suggest that religious freedom is understood by conservative Christians should be interpreted as protecting their ability to impose their views about morality on a large scale, including where many people who do not belong to their religious tradition are involved. And that's exactly true. They're not talking about religious freedom. They're talking about their own right to dictate policy according to their beliefs. Because I'll tell you right now, if they were really talking about religious freedom, they would recognize that it applies to more than fucking them. All right? It's not all about the Catholics, They cry, this is a Christian nation and all that kind of nonsense. And I'm sorry, it really isn't. It's a nation of many religions, and in some cases, no religion. And for you to try to impose this kind of, to throw around this rhetoric like, oh, it's for religious freedom and it's for America, bullshit. You have no interest in real religious freedom. Real religious freedom is you not imposing your religious beliefs on everybody else. And that's what you're trying to do here. Because when you are crying about, we have to provide contraception, or we have to, and this is the one that fucking kills me, all right? Claiming that they were forced to close adoption agencies because they were unwilling to adopt to gay couples or anything like that. Give me a fucking break. Honestly. You weren't forced to do that. You chose to do that because you were so upset and you thought you were making a political statement, and you were, it has nothing to do with religious freedom, all right? It has nothing to do with religious freedom. What you're saying here is that public policy should be sort of shaped around what your beliefs are. If you believe that children should not be given up for adoption to gay couples, that's fine. You can believe the shit out of that. I don't care. You can spray paint that shit on the walls of your house, of your church. I don't care. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to break the law. And by saying what you're saying, you're implying not that you want religious freedom. You're implying that you want special privilege. That's exactly what you're asking for. And that shit is not going to fly. Religious freedom, it doesn't mean that you're excused from obeying the law based on your religious beliefs. And I really feel like that's what these bishops are asking for. They're asking for special treatment. They're asking that, we should be an exception to the law. And what's funny is if you kind of flip it around and say, okay, well, let's take a look at the Jehovah's Witnesses. All right, they don't believe that they should perform blood transfusions, right? So how reasonable would it be to someone who happens to be a Catholic, their child is in an accident and they go to a hospital and they find out that their child cannot receive a blood transfusion because that hospital has decided, based on their religious stance, that blood transfusions are immoral. I mean, do you really think that is acceptable? Would you condone that kind of thing? Would you happily say, well, that's fine, don't give my kid any blood, I respect your religious freedom? Absolutely fucking not. You would not take that kind of approach, and if you say you would, I think you're a liar. All right. Well, here's what religious freedom does not mean. It does not mean that you are excused from obeying the law based on your religious beliefs. So saying that you were forced to close an orphanage or an adoption agency because you did not want the gays to adopt, to take children, sorry, that is not your right. You can close, and that's your deal, but don't put that heavy on us, man. Don't do it, because it's not our fault. You don't get to make the rules up as you go along just because it happens to go against one of your religious convictions. Religious freedom does not mean the government should fund any religious group that uses the funding to further its religious agenda. And that includes, by the way, standing up in church and telling people who they should or should not vote for. No, cannot do that. You can't do that because you are exempt from paying taxes. And part of the condition of enjoying that tax-exempt status is that you have that you cannot impact in any way the political process. And that includes getting up and telling people, hey, vote for Rick Santorum. So that's a no-no. And us telling you can't do that, we are not encroaching on your religious freedom. We're asking you to obey the law. It's just that simple. Religious freedom does not mean particular beliefs that have no basis in science should be taught in schools. That goes for all of you creationists and intelligent design supporters. No. We say no to that. And again, saying no to that, I'm not telling you not to believe that the planet was created in 6 days or that the Earth is 6,000 years old. You can believe the shit out of that. I don't care. What I don't want you to do is come into schools and teach my children that and use some kind of pseudoscience babble bullshit and act like it's fact, and act like it's teach the controversy bullshit. Give me a break. You can't do that, and I'm not encroaching on your religious freedom in that respect either. I'm just saying you cannot teach nonsense to my kids in schools. That's the law. Religious freedom does not mean that particular beliefs should affect change in public policy regarding health care or medical research. So not only does that mean policies involving women's health care, contraception, abortion, those kinds of things, but stem cell research. I understand that you believe that the human soul is present from the moment of conception, and so that you believe that a 3-day-old clump of cells is a human being. I get that. And again, not telling you not to believe that, not judging you, all right? But you cannot impede progress in this area just based on your religious beliefs. You can't do it. All right, and telling you that you can't do that, again, guess what? Not going against your religious freedom. Not saying you can't believe whatever you want to believe, just saying that you can't force other people to go along with what you believe. Sorry, cannot do it. Religious freedom does not mean that you're given permission to do bad things or limit good things, and this certainly goes beyond the realm of Christianity, but you go overseas. It does not mean that you can stone a woman to death because she had sex before she was married, and it doesn't mean that you can tell a woman that she's not allowed to drive, or that she's not allowed to vote, or that she's not allowed to learn. Something as basic as fucking reading. All right, does not mean that at all. I think overall, when you look at the term religious freedom, really, the real concern here is that it's not religious freedom that's being threatened. It is secularism, and like it or not, as much as they like to claim that the Bible is the foundation, and that this country was based on good Christian values and all that. That's simply not true. This country has a secular constitution. The founding fathers wanted to get away from being any kind of theocracy, and if you really want religious freedom, then you want it for everybody. It has to apply to everybody, not just you. And if it doesn't apply to everybody, then what you're talking about is not religious freedom. You're talking about special treatment. You're talking about getting shit your way. And I, as someone, not just an atheist, but someone who believes in a secular America, I'm not going to stand for it. And you can tell me until you're blue in the face that I'm somehow affecting your religious freedom in a negative way, and I'm sorry, but I don't care. Because that shit is not right. So there it is. Everybody or nobody. That's it. Not just you. All right. I'm going to take another quick little break here. When we come back to New Atheist Radio, I'm going to talk about the sanctity of beliefs and the taboo of not talking about religious beliefs. We'll be right back with New Atheist Radio.
But let me stress again that these are my views. For contrary to common newspaper usage, I am not the Catholic candidate for president. I am the Democratic Party's candidate for president, who happens also to be a Catholic. I do not speak for my church on public matters, and the church does not speak for me. Whatever issue may come before me as president, if I should be elected, on birth control, divorce, censorship, gambling, or any other subject, I will make my decision in accordance with these views, in accordance with what my conscience tells me to be in the national interest, and without regard to outside religious pressure or dictates. And no power or threat of punishment could cause me to decide otherwise. But if the time should ever come, and I do not concede any conflict to be remotely possible, when my office would require me to either violate my conscience or violate the national interest, then I would resign the office. And I hope any other conscientious public servant would do likewise. But I do not intend to apologize for these views to my critics of either Catholic or Protestant faith. Nor do I intend to disavow either my views or my church in order to win this election. If I should lose on the real issues, I shall return to my seat in the Senate, satisfied that I tried my best and was fairly judged. But if this election is decided on the basis that 40 million Americans lost their chance of being president on the day they were baptized, then it is the whole nation that will be the loser in the eyes of Catholics and non-Catholics around the world, in the eyes of history, and in the eyes of our own people.
All right, welcome back to New Atheist Radio. Next, I'd like to talk about the sanctity of beliefs taboo. Let me first say that I generally don't care what a person believes. Your beliefs can be private, and you're perfectly within your rights to believe whatever you want, and to consider those beliefs private and personal. If I do ask you what you believe on a particular subject and you decline to answer, that discussion is over. No problem there. There is a problem in that beliefs do inform our actions, and further, that most people are not content with keeping those beliefs to themselves. Your beliefs can and do often result in consequences, not just for yourself, but for those around you. If you happen to say to me, you believe that Bigfoot has commanded you to treat someone badly, right? I think it's perfectly reasonable for me to say that is fucking ridiculous, right? You can't. That belief is insane, and you cannot use that to justify treating somebody badly. If we shift it and say, I believe that Darth Vader commands me to treat people badly, again, same response. If, however, we change that to God, and we say, hey, God has told us that homosexuals are evil, or that people that fornicate out of wedlock are evil, or people that touch themselves are evil, or fucking whatever. Then the discussion changes. Then if I say to that person that is ridiculous, somehow I am now a religious bigot. Somehow I've offended them. I've crossed a line. I've gone too far, and I don't understand that. And I think it is unreasonable. I believe it's ridiculous for anybody to assert that talking about beliefs just because they're religious should be taboo, that they're not something that we should talk about. And I have yet to have anybody ever explain to me why that is, why special exception is given when the conversation is about religious beliefs. And if you think about it, we don't do this in any other realm of discussion, whether it's politics or sports or movies and television, things like that. We don't do that when we're talking about who our favorite baseball team is, and you're in a discussion and somebody says to you, look, I think the Cubs are the greatest baseball team ever, right? Whether you're a Cubs fan or not, I think it's totally acceptable for you to say, if you want to, you are crazy for believing that. And in that scenario, the person who is the Cubs fan, well, they might, but I think it would be rare, rarely ever claims, you've offended me. That offends me that you have called out my belief and called it into question and said that it was crazy. You just don't hear that. You don't hear it in politics, in the the Democrat-Republican debates and things like that. We can call people out if they believe some part of maybe some fiscal policy that we don't agree with. We can say No, that's stupid. That's not, that's not based on any evidence. There's no data to support what you're saying about that. And again, we don't get offended. We don't flip the fuck out and say, how dare you question my belief, right? So we don't do any of those things. But for some reason, when someone says to you something like, I believe that this cracker and this wine turn into the real body and the real blood of Jesus Christ, right? And I call them on that and I say, I have to tell you, I think that's ridiculous. Suddenly, I have done something comparable to punching their mother in the fucking mouth, and it always blows up into this terrible, oh, you're religiously intolerant and you're a bigot and you're, and we don't get that anywhere else, and I don't understand why that is. Just because your belief is religious, that doesn't mean that any kind of conversation should end. Your beliefs are not off limits. Not off limits from examination. Not off limits to ridicule. If I feel that it's stupid, I'm going to call it stupid, and I'm not calling you stupid. And people have a very hard time, it seems, separating their religious beliefs from their own personal identities, and I don't understand that. Just because these beliefs are sacred, you believe that there's, these beliefs are somehow more important, more that these beliefs extend into the supernatural, the unknown. That does not give it any kind of protection from examination, discussion, ridicule, mockery, whatever. It just doesn't. In the Atheist Revolution blog, which is a fantastic blog, on April the 8th, they ran an article called Private Religious Beliefs versus Public Expressions of Religious Beliefs. And a couple of things it said. When someone introduces a belief into the public arena, dialogue about the belief is appropriate. So again, you're totally welcome to keep those beliefs to yourself. But if you publicly, whether in conversation, on Facebook, whatever, you come out and you say, look, I believe this 600-year-old dude collected every animal on Earth onto a boat, and they floated during the flood for a year. I'm sorry. I think that is a ridiculous belief, and that it is sacred to you, that it comes out of this text that you believe is divinely inspired, doesn't change anything. It doesn't mean that I can't call you on it. It simply doesn't. Another point, by virtue of acts like this being public, they're fair game for discussion, disagreement, and even mockery. And that's totally true. I can believe in my heart of hearts that the Pink Panther is my Lord and Savior, right? And I can continue. I can believe that until the day I die. But if I choose to reveal that to somebody and they make fun of me for it, sorry, that's my fault. I simply shouldn't have told people that I thought that the Pink Panther was my Lord and Savior. And by doing that, I do open it up to discussion, and I open it up to properly being mocked and ridiculed until I say to myself, I'm probably never going to share that with anybody ever again. So you simply don't get to feign offense just because I call a belief into question, right? I'm not insulting you. I'm not calling you a moron. If I call your belief ridiculous, I'm not calling you ridiculous. I believe many things that I think people would consider to be ridiculous. As my friends know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Have been since I was 7 years old, and I happen to believe that the third movie in the prequel trilogy is fantastic. I enjoy the shit out of that movie. It has its weaknesses, certainly, but the whole experience, beginning to end, I fucking love it. And I have friends who are also big Star Wars fans, and they think that I am absolutely insane for liking any of those three movies. Now, it's a belief that I hold very dearly, and I will defend that belief with every breath. But I don't take offense when people tell me that it's a silly belief, because that's their opinion, and because they're just talking about a belief, right? They're not talking about my mother. They're not talking about my country. It's just an idea, right? I'm only saying I think this movie is fantastic, and that's my opinion. That's what I believe. But for some reason, if that changes, and instead of saying I believe that Revenge of the Sith is a fantastic movie, for some reason, if you are going to tell me that your God believes that homosexuals are sinful and they're going to burn in hell, and you use this belief to justify your hate for them, your bigotry, and your mistreatment, for some reason, I'm not supposed to tell you that I think that's ridiculous? I don't think so. I don't agree with that. I'm going to tell you specifically that you are reading a book that, if we're talking about Leviticus, we're talking over 2,000 years old, and you are somehow reading into it that this God, that these people at this time felt a certain way, and you're going to use that to justify the way you treat people today in 2012. I think it's ridiculous. I'm going to tell you it's ridiculous. If it offends you, too fucking bad. All right? Because it is, again, it is an idea. If I say that your belief in God, is ridiculous, which I generally don't say to people, but hypothetically, that in of itself is not something that I think warrants a kind of I'm offended, you're an awful person for saying so response. I just don't, because like everything else we've talked about, God is an idea. It's a concept. It's not something tangible. It's not something that you can show me, and it's certainly not such a part of you that it should be exempt from discussion and exempt from ridicule or mockery if I feel that that's the way I want to go. And here's the thing: if something that you believe in is sound, right? Whether it's Noah's Ark, something like that, like one of those tales, or you believe something a little more abstract, like Jesus is the body and blood and all that stuff. No matter which of those, if you can effectively defend that belief, if you can rationalize and explain it to me in a meaningful way, or explain it to anybody in a meaningful way, then there's no reason why it shouldn't be open to examination. You should be perfectly willing to talk about it. And the fact that I say to you that I believe that what you just said is ridiculous should in no way impact you or that belief. My saying that I think something you believe is ridiculous does not erode the value of that belief on your part, or at least it shouldn't. And if it does, then maybe it's time you re-examine that belief, because maybe it's not as rock solid as you think it is. So, when you do this, when you instantly take offense and put up this wall and say, "Hey, it's this is not something that we talk about," you shut down the conversation, and at that point, we really have nothing else to talk about. And frankly, I don't have any reason to listen to you further if you're not going to elaborate and talk about the things that you believe, because again, your beliefs do inform your actions. And if you're acting in a way that I feel is unfair towards people, and the reason you're doing it, your motive, is ridiculous, absolutely I'm going to tell you that that's what I feel. And I think that we need to collectively agree, theists and atheists alike. I mean, I really think we need to agree that just because a belief is religious, it should not receive any kind of special exception. And that doing that is counterproductive for us in moving forward as a species. And further than that, we can't continue to allow laws and policies to be dictated by people who refuse to talk about these things, to talk about their motives, and to say, I believe that a human being exists at the moment of conception, that a 3-day-old clump of cells is a human being, and therefore stem cell research is immoral and we're going to lobby against it. If I call you on that and I say your belief in a soul present at the moment of conception is ridiculous, and it's not an idea that I subscribe to, that's not me insulting you. I'm not calling you an idiot. I'm simply saying that belief is ridiculous to me, and I don't feel that it should be used as a justification for you to affect laws and policies in this country. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. All right, well, that's it for this week's edition of New Atheist Radio. Visit the website at newatheistradio.com or visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/newatheistradio. You can also go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast there, and give it a rating. Let me know whether you like it or not. Again, my name is Christian McFadden. Have a great day, everybody, and I will talk to you next time.